Welcome back to East Oaktober, starting a minute or so late because we actually forgot to click the live button.
It was my bad, y'all.
No, it is not her bad. It is not her bad. It is just we have a lot of little toggles we got to click on, and sometimes it's easy to forget one. So we are so excited you're here. Welcome back for another episode of East Oaktober. Livia will be with me today.
Hello.
So excited for her to be painting. She is going to be painting a black and white of a painting of William Bouguereau, one of the peasant girls, I believe. So, do you remember do you know the name of it?
I'm not sure if it's Shepherdess or something similar to that.
Yeah, something similar to that. I'm going to be painting a Emil Carlson painting of it's like a moon skyscape. But it's one of those that is slightly feels like it could be the sun or the moon. So it's another situation where I feel like yesterday was staging me for today. So the challenge today, speaking of, is we're trying to take some of the ideas that we've used over the past 3 days to lean into today. Now this is like the biggest challenge at the end of the week, which is taking a black and white image of maybe a favorite painting of yours. If you need a resource, we have about 6 to 8 paintings that we've turned to black and white for you. All you gotta do is go to the description below if you're on the YouTube channel. If you're on Facebook right now, we only have that link on YouTube, so you might wanna switch over to YouTube. We're gonna work on a way to do it for Facebook in the future. So if you have a painting that you're inspired by, use that, turn it to black and white. It's easy to do, just go to your phone, click edit, and then change everything from color to black and white. And one of the tips that I would tell people that would be helpful for you if you're trying to do this for the first time or don't know really where to start is maybe have another painting of influence that has a certain color harmony that you think would work for this black and white image, as a way for you to kind of get some ideas of color relationships. That's one way to do it. We have some that are like easy, medium, and hard. The easier ones are ones that are a more tonal style of painting, where the actual original painting doesn't have a ton of color. It's got just a pretty limited range. And then we have some that are much larger in range, and we have some that are much more complex. So, feel free to thumb around there, pick your own painting. We look forward to seeing them on Discord. We have had so much fun looking those over. The Discord link is in the bottom if you haven't joined our community yet. And for those of you, we are so honored to be able to deliver this to you for free. And all we ask in return is that if you have enjoyed this at all, please just do what every YouTuber says. Click the like button, click the subscribe button and the bell, leave a comment, say something, tell us where you're from, what's going on. We would love to hear from you. We're doing this for you, and it's a big sacrifice, but we think it's worth it because community is something that East Oaks has got at our core. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I've been a huge fan of this painting for a very long time. So that's why I want to paint it. And as you can tell, we have them only in black and white. And I'm not using any other influence. I'm just going to paint what I see and imagine the color. But if you're doing this for the first time, I would recommend, if you feel too fearful that would almost stop you from doing it at all, just get another painting that has a color harmony that you can add to it. So, Liv, have you ever done anything like this before?
I have not. This will be something entirely new for me.
Me too. I've never done this. Never done it.
Really facing some fears today.
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes I feel like even being in front of the camera is facing some fears, you know? So I'm so proud of every single person who has gotten up and in front of the camera. Y'all, it's hard. It is a hard thing to get in front of that little black box. And for some reason, it just stares at you, and it's kind of nerve-wracking when you haven't done it before. So just the fact that every one of you has faced those fears gives me mad respect for you.
Mad respect. Everybody's such a good job. I actually feel probably the most anxiety today that I have so far.
Yeah?
But It might just be because it's a little bit different of a challenge for me.
Gotcha. Well, it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine.
I will say you have chosen a complex painting, and so, you know, I was telling her earlier, just be encouraged. You don't have to complete it. It's not about like getting it perfect. And if you want to like keep working on it later, keep working on it later. We have 3 hours where people get to see a lot of fun stuff. Work on the color study side of it, and then push the drawing side later if you need to.
Yes, yes.
So
Doing exploration, having fun.
yes, that's right. Exactly. So it's going to be a good day.
Well, we've got quite a few folks signing on and saying hi.
Awesome.
We've got, let's see, we've got Joyce from Washington.
Hi, Joyce.
Hello, Joyce.
Let's see. We've got Jean from Estero, Florida. We've got Ambarish from India, who says, I love the concept today, as I was a monochrome photographer before I started painting, but I'll probably be checking out in an hour or so. Totally fine. I understand it's midnight there. You can, of course, always finish watching the video later on after it's live. It'll be up on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining.
Also, use one of your photographs. You know, absolutely use one of your photographs to do the same challenge. See if you can imagine how you would paint it in color. You know, maybe try some really crazy colors, see how that works. So,
Let's see. We also have Jean, who says, oh my gosh, this class is amazing. Can't thank you enough.
oh, Jean, thank you for saying so.
Julie from France, bonjour. Sean Kelly saying, hey, every all from Chile, Utah.
Woo.
Alyssa, again from Australia, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Monique from Massachusetts. We've got Karina from New Zealand. Julia from California. Nyla from Winnipeg, Canada. Joyce from Montreal. Oh, I'm sorry, did I misread that earlier?
There's another
Instead
Joyce
of-
from Washington.
WA, yeah, oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining.
Yeah.
We're so excited. It's so fun to see some familiar names popping up every day.
Yeah, it really is.
Lets us feel like we're really getting to know you guys a little bit better. And yeah, it's super special.
Truly becoming a part of the East Oaks family.
So for today, really quick, Louie and Liv, do you guys want to just super quickly cover which pigments you're using for today?
Yeah. Liv, you want me to start or you want to go?
You go ahead.
Okay, it sounds good. All right, so I'm going to probably use my full palette, or at least the colors that I think I'm going to need in the painting to accomplish what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to go with my traditional colors, and with that, at least the ones I've only put on my palette today are Naples Yellow, Manganese Violet, Ultramarine Blue, Cobalt Blue, and at this moment, Oxide Yellow. I doubt I'll need Oxide Red unless I'm trying to neutralize my Ultramarine Blue. So I might put a hint of it, but I don't need a lot because it's such an invasive color as it is, and it's easy to balance the blue with it. So, and then of course white. And you know, if I need it black, but I doubt I'll need black too in this. So, and I'll just add the colors to my palette as I need them, just so I don't have to put out a full palette.
Nice, nice. And my palette is a doozy. I have a flake white replacement and chromatic black here, and then mix that up to several different values. And then I'll probably will be using primarily the warmer tones on my palette. So I've got, I can't dig through the bucket. I've got something resembling lemon yellow. I have cadmium yellow and a Hansa yellow. let's see, I have cadmium orange and scarlet pyrrole.
Nice.
And those are probably where I'll be focusing, is in this range. Along with a bunch of other lovely colors.
That is absolutely amazing. All right. Right now I'm just gonna do what I always do, which is just kind of block it in just a touch.
So envisioning kind of like what you want your final painting to look like from this monochromatic reference, how chromatic are you planning on getting with these?
Probably not crazy chromatic, because at the end of the day, the value is more important, right? So I'm thinking that I'll probably, nothing will be pure color right out of the tube. We'll put it that way. And anything, since this is like a night scene, the color is supposed to be pretty muted anyway. So, so I'm thinking that it will be probably decently neutral, but I'm going to play more with the idea of warm and cool than anything.
I am probably going to take a similar approach. I think for the sake of color harmony, I'm probably going to start off pretty neutral and then move more chromatic as the painting continues. I think definitely not in the beginning. I won't start off with too much color, just so I can keep the harmonies going pretty well.
Sounds like a plan. Something I am going to do with this that I love in other paintings of night scenes that I see is I'm going to make the lights warm. So I'm going to add a little bit more like oxide yellow notes to my lights. And the painting's going to I'm going to make the painting have a bit of a violet-y blue and yellow harmony. And then the water have just a hint more green in it. I don't know, it's kind of my game plan. That's what I'm kind of shooting for. And today I'm also probably going to try to like make the painting a little bit more impasto-y, even though that's not like the goal of the painting today, just for the fun of it. I think to make it feel pretty, I might kind of build up the color relationships more.
So Louis, I did see you just really quickly put in some guidelines compositionally, and I know that that's to help you triangulate certain features, but can you maybe tell our audience a little bit about how you're planning on doing that?
Yeah, so there's two focal points of the painting, and the two focal points is the moon and the reflection on the water. Well, I want to get the relative location of where the moon is on the palette, and it's kind of hard to do that considering that it's sort of nebulously in the kind of the middle-ish area, but not quite sure where it is. Well, the way to find your center is by making an X through your painting, and then like that way you know kind of where center is. And then once you've found center, I kind of find the center on my image. And then once I've found center, I then go into trying to see where, if I were to drop a plumb line, vertical line straight down the middle, how close is the moon to the vertical versus how close is it to my horizontal line? And that kind of helps me kind of triangulate where the focal point is. And then that way, for the rest of the painting, I don't have to worry about that. I'm just gonna build, I'm not trying to get the drawing perfect here. I mean, it's clouds, right? So I'm more interested in creating a beautiful color relationship to make the scene feel pretty. So, but it'd be nice to have it close, and that way I don't have to worry about it that much anymore.
And Liv, I noticed that you started your piece with a brief sketch on your panel Can you tell us a little bit about what you used to sketch it out and kind of what your thought process was there?
Yeah. I just used a graphite pencil, probably like a 2H. It's mechanical, not anything fancy, but I mostly did that to figure out how I wanted the subject to fill the canvas. I didn't focus too much on proportions or getting anything super accurately placed with just the drawing. I'm more so figuring that out with the painting and moving things around. But just to get an idea of how much space I want to take up with the little girl is mostly what I was using that for. And then with the paint, as I go in, I'm doing a lot of stepping back to try to get the proportions accurately. Not quite size, but kind of in that vein.
Yeah, that's good.
We've got a couple other folks saying hi. We've got Jonathan from Maine, and we have Edward from Edmonton, Canada, who says, I love the Bouguereau painting.
Nice.
I love it too. It's going to be a challenge. I picked it because it had a nice range of values. So if the color fails too terribly, there'll be something resembling the original piece, at least to fall back on.
I love it. That's good. It's interesting because like the cloud formation almost goes directly down in the middle. If I'm getting my situation right, it's just slightly to the left of middle. Yep. So I'm going to just kind of push it over that way. I always have to be careful about how much I whistle on the air. I don't want to, some people, it can make them cringe. There's the, like, what is it, ASMR people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they might appreciate it, but there's a lot of other people, it's like, please stop whistling.
Yeah, I'll catch myself humming in the studio if I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. I like to be conscious of other people, but nobody said anything so far, so I think
Nope.
it's fine.
No, you're good. Yeah. A lot of people here, we all have headphones on and kind of in our own worlds, right?
Yeah,
So,
everybody's in the zone.
in the zone here at East Oaks. We like it that way.
Admittedly, I work next to Tina in the studio, and if there's a time where like she isn't there, so like there's nobody who can see me because Liv is near me, but we have a wall between us. Sometimes I have like a little dance party
Oh, nice.
and just dance at my painting.
It's okay. Chelsea Lang, one of our dearest friends, who actually competed dancing today, and she did an amazing job. My wife went to go watch her. I was sad that we couldn't, but she will be joining us not too long from now. She dances often in the studio too.
That's true.
Sometimes you have a good song on and you just can't help yourself.
That's right. I feel like this is the fun stage for this kind of painting because you get to push and pull things. I'm going to try to not use a whole lot of medium because I like the dry, draggy method in this painting, how it's going to make it feel. One of the things I love about this painting, if you've ever seen it in person, I haven't, but I've looked at high-res images of it, is that it's just got so much chunky paint on it, and it's got this lovely texture to it. So it's part of one of those things that I want to continue to create. I love Emil's work. He's become one of my most recent favorite painters. I love his still life so much. And I think one of the things I love about him is he does texture in a way that just, I don't know, it feels gritty, it feels naturalistic, and you know, in some ways dusty. You know, like some of his like pots and things that he does in his still life paintings have like this like dusty feel to them. This is really cool. So it's kind of like he uses value and in a subtle way and compresses his value, but the texture with that subtlety and with his color relationships just have like a really interesting harmony to them. So it was a good excuse to bust him out on this project. So when I'm working on my color relationships, I want the white. I'm going to use the lead white to my advantage, and I'm at the end of my tube. Even though I turn my tube upside down, which usually allows for the paint to be separated more, I'm at the end of this tube, and it is like toothpaste. It's so thick, but I love it for something like this because I can just like pull up tons of texture with it and drag the texture around. So that part I'm kind of excited about. So down here, just understanding skies a little bit and clouds, you know, a lot of people don't think about this, but in relationship to the blue sky and being such a pure color, clouds can have a bit of a muddy relationship with them in a good way. They're more warm than people let them on to be. They think they're like blue like the sky, but in actuality, they have a lot of warmth to them. So I'm going to just add some more warmth to mine, kind of as if it's absorbing like a sponge some of the glow of that moon. And I'm going to make the moon yellow, so it's kind of like that's going to be my harmony, is the violets and bluey violets and yellows. But I'm going to make the yellows more of a muddy color, and so that blue really stands out without having to put too much crazy blue.
I like to hear the thought process. Do you feel like your painting yesterday at all informed what you're doing today?
I don't know if it did. It might have subconsciously, because I didn't choose this until this morning, but I was like, this would be a really great one for this kind of study, and I've wanted to do some sort of study of it anyway, and so I was like, well, this is my chance to do something that's kind of uniquely mine, but at the same time has like a lovely harmony to it. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what the original picture looks like in color, yeah?
I do, and I'm a bit influenced by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the challenge remains because, you know, for example, I've used Thomas Moran a lot in this example because this is how he would paint. He actually felt that he could do a better job of creating a beautiful, harmonious color relationship in his landscapes if he did it on his own. So, but he would observe it. So he would go out and he'd paint a whole scene, and he'd paint it in black and white or tonal. And he'd come back to the studio and he would fill in the color. But he was still influenced by what he saw. So in that instance, I feel like I'm still in the spirit of the challenge.
Yeah.
So, but it's absolutely not going to be exactly like it. You know, it's going to be uniquely its own thing. There's no way I could see it, and I don't have an eidetic memory, you know. So there's no way I could perceive it perfectly.
Definitely. Don't have it just stored in the back of your mind.
Yep. Boy, wouldn't that be great? I'd be the greatest portrait painter of all time if I could just like be like, go visit my client and be like, I got it. I know what you look like.
A painting for you.
It's kind of like those waiters that like they come to get your order, and you're like, well, aren't you going to write it down? And they're like, no, I got it in my head. You know, and you're like, they really don't have it in their head, and they do, and then they end up bringing it, and it's perfect. It's kind of like that, but for painting. You know, just going, yeah, no, I got this. This isn't a big deal.
That could never be me. I do not have the best memory.
It's okay, I don't either. However, I would love to practice having like the memory palace that people talk a lot about these days. There's a book out there called, I think it's called Moonwalking with Einstein. And it's a book about a guy who was a journalist and went to like a memory competition and was watching them, and he was just reporting on the memory competition, and he got so fascinated by it that he started practicing the techniques that they were using. And he ended up going back the next year and he won the national competition using their techniques and practicing them. So he ended up writing a book about it, and I think it's called Moonwalking with Einstein, which is
Wow.
part of the technique is to put a narrative to your memory and assigning different symbols or characters to certain things. And so like one of the memory techniques that they do is playing cards. And in so doing so, each playing card basically is assigned a character or a name, or I think even maybe a verb. And so like hearts has a character, 9 has a character. So 9 of hearts would end up having a bit of a narrative between like those two characters. And that's how you create good memories, because our best memory is tied to our narrative part of our brain. And so you'd make up these like crazy outlandish stories in your head to remember the orientation or the order that the playing cards are in.
Interesting.
And so that's where one of them was like Einstein moonwalking was like one of the things that I think maybe he like won the competition because he remembered that was part of the story of his memory.
Slightly related, but maybe perhaps a little bit random. My mom actually used to compete as a kid in competitions for reciting pi.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, and she's told me before that kind of like the methodology there is a lot of people focus on not what the number is or like the sound of the number or the value of the number numerically, but rather what the number itself looks like, the shape of it, and sort of remembering pi almost like in a pictographic sense. And in that way, honestly, like kind of like forgetting that it is a number. It's more about the image recollection.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is interesting. Maybe
How far? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Liv.
maybe I could pick up some tips to remember things better.
How far did she make it? Do you know?
Oh gosh, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I think I can only do 3.14159.265, maybe. Maybe that's right.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
That's where I.
That's about how far I can go.
You lost me at 3.1459. You know, that's about where my memory goes on pi.
Let's see. Alyssa, in regards to Moonwalking with Einstein, says that's a brilliant book.
Oh, cool.
So I think you're in good company there. We've got a couple of other folks who've signed on. Let's see, we have Mia from Sweden and Margie from Minnesota, Vemela from New Jersey. We've got Gare from Colombia. And Karina says, thank you for allowing us to join you for these sessions. I feel very privileged. I was wondering if you could talk about how you both organize your palette and how important do you think it is? Thank you so much, Karina.
Evie, can you elaborate for me on how important organizing your palette is?
Sure. When I first met Lewis and he first looked at my palette, he was like, what are you doing?
I don't know if I was that harsh. That might have been how you received it, but I was hoping that it came off a little bit
so sorry. I don't know how that happened. So for palette organization, we organize by chroma, keeping colors together kind of based on their position on a color wheel. And we also think in terms of value in that organization. So we have a lot of our light pigments, typically a lot of the yellows and things like lead tin yellow and pale yellows, kind of leading up into white. Then we have those transitioning to warmer tones like quinacridone. And my headphones just turned off.
Oh, yeah, they might have been out of battery. So it's okay.
Okay, folks, sorry about that.
Wait,
My headphones just turned off for some reason.
Say something again?
Something?
Testing.
Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Barely get the sound. So
1, 2. Sorry, folks. Hang on 1 second.
just write into the comments to hang on
Yeah.
just a second. I'm gonna reset the sound. It's all frozen.
That's never happened before.
You might have to reset.
Stephanie says she hears us.
Oh yeah? All right, we're back. We are back. Sorry about that, everyone. For some reason, my sound system froze up for a second.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. But to continue that palette sort of organization explanation, from our yellows, we typically shift warmer into, things like our cad red light, quinacridone. I have rose madder on my palette, kind of around that area, alizarin, and then from there shifting back into cool. Typically, that's where we put our manganese violet, and then our ultramarine, cobalt, any other kind of blues, and then oftentimes we stick our green after that. And I think that tends to surprise a lot of folks, or maybe some other folks prefer to put any green pigments next to their yellow pigments. We kind of reverse that a little bit just to keep the color temperature a little bit closer. So after our blues, we tend to do any green pigments that we have on our palettes. And then from there, we go more into darker neutrals. So for instance, any like burnt sienna, burnt umber, raw sienna, raw umber. That's where we have our transparent oxides. So typically transparent yellow, red, and sometimes brown oxides. And then we have our blacks, or any other neutrals that we might decide. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Palette organization might seem like kind of insignificant, just because, it's not happening on the panel itself, but it really, really does help the process, and trying to like really clearly see and formulate your colors. So highly recommend that everybody out there, if you don't have your palette organized in any particular way, highly recommend that you maybe mix it up and try to organize systematically that way.
To Avi, that was great. To echo what you're saying on that, one of the main reasons is so you don't have to think about it. Like, you have so many things you have to think about. It's nice to have something that once you start getting used to it, so and this also goes back to if you're used to painting with them in certain places, you know where to go. But there's a logic organization that helps you intuitively be able to like push color harmony without even having to think too hard about it, because you have each color of the rainbow next to each other, and then you've got your chromatics, you've got your lights, and then you've got your darks and your less chromatics. And so you start knowing where to go quickly to control a situation that might be getting out of hand, that needs a lot of your focus, and you might not have a lot of focus to give to the palette if you're trying so hard to like work on something else. It's kind of like if you're learning to read and you're focused on the words of reading, you don't want to like try to digest deep philosophy, with what you're reading at the beginning, because you're not going to be able to absorb it because you're learning to read. But like once that becomes a thing, you don't have to think about it anymore, and it gets stored into your muscle memory. The same thing with the palette organization. If you have your palette organized, it'll be faster for you to learn control over it, and then it helps you in the future. Free up that brain power.
Yes, brain power is a limited resource. Gotta use it as effectively as possible.
I like it. One of the things I love about this painting is just because it has like such pretty broken color in it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm pushing almost these like pearly relationships happening between the clouds and the sky. One of the other reasons I love this painting so much is you don't really know if it is a night scene or a day scene until you read the title, because the title gives it away. But it in a way kind of makes it more intriguing to look at, because for a little while it keeps you guessing. And I love that about it.
Sean Kelly asks, so Lewis, is the IG account for the palette and picture Colors Effect by any chance? Or did you answer that one yet? Or at Colors Effect?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to go ahead and pull my phone off and just look for it real quick, because he's asked for the past 3 days. So can you put it on Livia?
Sure.
And I'm going to just look on my phone right now and find it. I think it is, but I'm going to double check to make sure.
And in the meantime, we've got some other people saying hi. Let's see. We have Esteban joining, and we have Marcella from Waterford, Ireland. Hello. I have actually been to Waterford before. It's beautiful. Got Mary Beth from Richmond, Virginia.
Hello, hello.
I was in Richmond not too long ago. That's awesome.
We've got a question. What size is Louie's palette? I'm guessing 12 by 16. I would say it's maybe a bit more like a 9 by 12. What do you
The
think?
panel or the palette?
The palette.
The palette is much larger than a 9 by 12.
Okay.
It's probably is roughly around 12 by 16. Yeah. I'll look up I have my tape measure really close by. As soon as I do this, I'll do that. One thing at a time. All right. Here it is. It is called Paintings Palettes.
Like at Paintings Palette?
Exactly.
Got it.
At Paintings Palettes. It's an excellent little spot. In fact, that might be a great way to aid you as well if you wanted something else that made you fearful of doing it, which is, did the camera come up okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, my phone camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. is that would allow for you to be able to use a similar color harmony, because basically they have like the primary colors you need to make that palette happen. So it's a cool resource.
Julie asks, what green do you typically keep on your palette, Lewis?
It depends on if I'm painting a landscape or if I'm painting people, Viridian. And if I paint a landscape, I'll put sap green on there. So what you're seeing here is sap, but right here is just the tiniest bit of remnant of Viridian. But believe it or not, I don't use those colors that much. And so I only put them on when I'm needing to use them right away. But green is just so easy. There's so much variety in yellows and in blue that you can make almost any green you want to make from those mixtures. So unless there's a lot in your painting that you need to like mix, huge piles, and it'd be more convenient to not have to do that, then that's the only time I would switch over to using those greens. The Viridian works really beautifully if I'm using like a lot of vermilion or cad red. It mixes and makes a beautiful sort of neutral violet color, which is nice.
What about you, Livia? What greens do you like to use?
I have phthalo green, which I use quite a bit. And then this green.
It looks like maybe cad chartreuse.
Cadmium green.
Nice.
Look at that, you're so close, Evie.
There you go. Those are the two that I tend to use the most. Then I have a couple more probably true greens. But I don't touch those as often. They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
If I'm painting a really green scene, I will use them. Same with the different areas on the palette. If I'm painting a really blue scene, I'll usually squeeze out more varieties of blue. Or really pink scene or red scene, I'll squeeze out more reds. But I like to have just a couple and then change the palette from painting to painting sometimes.
I think green is probably like more than any other tertiary color, a pigment that a lot of artists are really particular about, and what they like or what they find necessary or what they find excessive. But yeah, just play around with your greens. It's a lot of fun.
We should have almost done a day on green where, as like one of the fear factors, and say, push maybe a tonal painting green,
Maybe that's a good idea for another series.
Oh, well, stay tuned, everybody, because Z Stokes is planning on doing a significant amount of these type of things in the future. So, and speaking of, Evie will be doing one of our lecture series not too long from now.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I think I think my biggest challenge, just because I'm such a pigment nerd, is going to be condensing the quantity of information that I have that I want to talk about into, that series. But yeah, if anybody out there wants to learn more about pigments and how to gather them yourself or make them yourself, or even just what, to look for when you're out shopping, then that is a lecture that might be helpful for you that will be coming up in the next few months.
Go Evie.
Yeah, way to go, Evie.
Hey, sometimes it's good to be a nerd.
It's always good to be a nerd.
I agree, 100%. We're just a bunch of art nerds here that dabble into other areas of nerddom.
Multifaceted nerds.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Stephanie says, if we practice, we get better. And that is very, very true. Practice makes permanent.
Ooh. I like that.
Mary Beth is asking, what are the neutrals lined up at the bottom of your palettes?
These right here? I'm assuming these are the lined up neutrals she's talking
I
about.
believe so, yes.
So if you weren't here yesterday, I'll point them out again if you can see them. I use, whenever I'm painting a painting, I will make swatches of color that represent a particular thing, or maybe the shadow side of it all the way to the light side of something. And so those colors are representation mixtures of something a project I'm working on. And they will stay on my palette until I'm done with the project. And then because I keep them there to make it easy for me to remix them, because sometimes it's hard to do that. And then try to match it on your painting and all of that. So it's easier for me to get close by trying to mix these and then getting the exact relationship up on my painting.
This is, I guess, kind of a good follow-up question that is associated with that. Can you talk about the attributes of using transparent oxide colors?
Oh, yeah, wow. So it's a good practice to have transparent colors, medium transparency, and opaque colors on your palette. Typically, one of the conventions is that your darker colors be more transparent, such as your black, and your lower value reds and yellows and blues being possibly black or maybe ultramarine, because that's a very transparent color as well. And so what you're able to do is mix things for your shadows, and your shadows be more transparent by nature. The other thing that it can do is that if you add white to them, they have a chroma pop. And sometimes it's great if you say you have an opaque color that you want to make a transparent color from. So for example, I might not like that I have cad red, say it might be too overpowering, but I want a transparent version of cadmium red. Well, I can mix my alizarin crimson, which is a transparent red, with lemon yellow, and I could create either a cadmium orange or a cadmium red, but a transparent version of it, so that it allows me to glaze with it or push other color around. So the same is true with the transparent yellow and red. The transparent red, aside from them be good for shadows, you can mix with white and get a semi-transparent orange that's lower in chroma. And then the other reason I have them is because they create a great neutral balance between oxide red and ultramarine blue, create a great neutral gray. And then I love the combination of manganese violet with transparent oxide yellow. I think that they make a beautiful harmony. So for those reasons, I keep them on there, because the versatility of those colors, I can almost paint a whole beautiful tonal painting with those that harmonize really beautifully together without touching any other colors. So that's why I like it.
And fun fact, all true lake pigments, meaning pigments that are derived from botanicals rather than synthesized to resemble true lake pigments, are naturally transparent. So if you ever pick up a pigment that claims to be a lake and is really opaque, that typically is because it has a bunch of binders and fillers in it.
It's because they are a liar.
Yeah, because they lie.
Is it time for me to go say that that I'm having so much fun yet?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
been waiting.
I hadn't said it yet, so I thought it's time.
Go ahead.
I'm having so much fun doing this.
Gosh, this is so fun.
Oh,
Maximum entertainment.
maximum entertainment. Liv is such a great addition to our family here. It's been fun having her be around.
I am so very glad to be here. Very, very glad.
Yay!
Well, we're very, very glad you're here too.
Yeah, you've been here, what, a month? Month and a half?
Month and a half.
Yeah. It's funny, even after just a month and a half, it feels like, I don't know, it feels like it's been longer.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a good fit.
It's
I
just
don't
a
know,
good fit.
I can't imagine being here without you,
I
Yeah.
feel like it's been longer.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Everybody's been so nice and welcoming.
I love you.
I love you.
Really do have the best peeps here.
Jan asks a question, where can I learn from you? To start, you can head over to the East Oak Studio website, and you can subscribe to the Atelier Live program.
And there's a link also, should be a link in the description below for that if you want to be a part of the subscription platform. In the subscription platform, we have world-renowned artists that we've have done videos with us, and for what usually the cost for one video from someone, you actually have access to close to 25, 30 videos of all sorts of people, unlimited amount of time. So it's about 1.5 videos. You get a whole year membership and you have access to all of them. And that was kind of the goal and the heart behind it, is to give people a place where they could have affordable access to resources. And so that's also why we do the YouTube videos. We try to give as much as we can for free, but it is most certainly the subscription that allows for us to keep making this stuff for free for other people. So that is where you can learn from us. I also teach workshops. I'm going to be teaching one in Scottsdale, Arizona next year. And it is going to be on composing the figure and multiple figures into a scene. And so it's more composition based. But also teaching with Portrait Society at their conference this year. I'm going to be teaching a workshop for them at the beginning. And I also am going to be releasing a self-portrait video not too long from now onto our platform. And I have tons of lectures on there as well. So plenty of options for people who want to check it out.
That's a great question, Jan. Thank you. We've got a lot of other folks saying thank you. And Sean Kelly asks, are lake pigments more or less fugitive in general? And I would say typically, yes, they are more fugitive than earth pigments. However, that's not necessarily always the case across the board. It's kind of dependent pigment to pigment based on what the lake pigment is extracted from. Yeah, and for any of those of you out there who are like, what is she talking about? Stay tuned for my lecture.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I feel like at this stage, both of you are really kind of getting to a place where you're really starting to cover the panels, get kind of the groundwork in, and then, you know, be able to build up more detail from there. Is there anything in particular that you're thinking about prioritizing in that regard?
Well, I like to start all of my paintings trying to find the lightest light, the darkest dark, the most chromatic, what I'm going to make the most chromatic moment, and then the least chromatic moment. and make sure that I have a swatch for every color. And the reason I like to do that is because I want to make sure that the colors that I've chosen can basically, sometimes when I'm painting those things, like the most chromatic and the lightest light, that's the edge, that's as far as I can go. And so everything else can exist in between, and just making sure that everything's going to work and exist in between and I can work towards the middle. Now that's not always the case, and there's definitely schools of thought of doing it differently. For example, you have like Sargent, who would always start with midtones, and he would work from like the middle range only, and then pull out lighter and then pull in darker. So I don't ever put in the darkest dark at the beginning, that's for sure. But I do try to create a light and a dark range, and then as the painting progresses, expand the dark and the light more, if I can. So right now I'm just putting in what I'm gonna say is more of like the ocean color. And I'm giving it sort of a little bit of a, sort of a sea green, sea foam green. And, but making sure that it's not going to be stealing the show, kind of the idea. I'm going to make sure that it has more neutrality than, say, the blue of my sky.
And for my approach, I am trying to get the general values in first. I am probably sticking more towards the middle, and then will go darker, push the darks and the lights as I get further in. I don't tend to like to commit to anything too early on, just because I'm so fickle and finicky, always changing my mind.
It's okay, I do that too.
I think that's just part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a skill.
So I'm trying to just get a foundation that I can be flexible with
I like it.
later on. Although I do feel like every time I paint, it's a different approach. So I'm constantly trying things out, constantly trying different methods.
Exploration and experimentation are both good elements of this process.
Yeah, especially as someone still very early in the art journey. But for everybody, actually,
Yeah. I want to know if anyone has chosen any of the images we've made or has their own images. If anyone's painting along.
Yeah, tell us what you're working on, folks. We would love to see it and take a peek.
Be so much fun.
you think Lewis isn't having enough fun,
I'm telling
share your pictures with us and it'll be even more.
you. Exactly. I'm not having fun until I see your pictures.
Lewis never has fun. I don't
Ever.
know what you're talking about.
I've never seen him smile.
I'm going to come in. The days, if I ever have like just a neutral face, everybody's going to be like, oh,
Oh,
Lewis is
no.
having a bad day.
What's going wrong?
Don't talk to Lewis. Might set him off.
Lewis needs a cookie.
Lewis needs a cookie.
Cup of hot cocoa and a blanket.
I think we all
Exactly.
need that this time of year.
Yep.
Oof. Pickles, pico de gallo, I love your name,
Yes.
asks, do they tend to dry faster like earth pigments? I'm guessing that's back to lake pigments. Do y'all want to talk about that, or?
No, you talk about it. You have more knowledge on the lake pigments.
They do tend to dry slightly slower, and that is because lake pigments are actually not technically a dye, but they are, it's color that is absorbed onto a metallic salt that is then percolated in a solution that then becomes the pigment. I know that's a lot of technical terminology, but they do tend to dry slower. That is because earth pigments have a really high absorbency rate because you're actually working with the material earth and its raw form, ground up really, really fine. And that tends to absorb a lot more of the oil on the surface. So the answer to that is no, they do not dry faster. They dry quite a bit slower typically. But yeah, for those of y'all out there who have earth and lake pigments on your palettes and have never really known the difference between what that is, that kind of correlates back to what Lewis was talking about earlier in terms of transparency properties of different paints and pigments. Definitely a valuable thing to play around with and learn about. And Chris Maycock says, looking good, folks.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
James McCormick says, I have a black and white bar sketch and gouache, about a dozen people sitting and standing working on yellow light and figure outlines.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
So we're just hanging out in the room with a dozen other people.
That's so cool.
I love it.
Yay, Art Fam. We love it. Sean Kelly says, very well explained. I look forward to your presentation. Thank you so much. And Judith is painting along doing a Rembrandt. That's awesome.
Sweet.
Noise.
And Chris asks, is canvas paper or canvas the only paper you can use to paint?
Only paper you can use to paint?
Is canvas paper? I'm guessing that's like a particular product.
It is, yeah.
You want to take that?
So basically it's saying, is canvas paper the only paper you can paint on? Is that what it's asking?
Yes.
Okay. No, you can put sizing on like rabbit skin glue, and they make different like grounds that you can put onto paper in order to paint on them. But it's much easier just to buy the canvas paper and just to get a quality brand if you're worried about it being like having quality to it. But for the most part, it is, yes, you can get a certain type of sizing similar to like a PVA that you would put down for paper, and then you could put it on there. You can also use oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. It's like an amber that you can melt down, that I'm drawing a blank on the name of, that you can put on there.
Gum Arabic?
It's not gum arabic. It's kind of like they're amber chips, but I'm trying to remember the name of shellac.
Oh, yeah.
You can put shellac on paper and it'll work as well. So, and some people use that to give a cool drawing surface. My Gruppide is known for it. That's what she uses. So,
historically in Asia, that's actually pretty common because that's where the lac trees that shellac is derived from grow.
oh wow.
So there's actually a really extensive history of that throughout Asia. I have a friend who's an artist living and working in Vietnam who works with the shellac quite a bit.
Isn't that the coolest? Evie's got friends all over the world.
That's what I was just thinking.
That's a nice way of
Cool.
saying that all of my friends from college became expats.
Oh,
and moved
I thought they
out.
were natives.
Well, some are. That's true. I am very blessed to have friends all over the world. It's true. Some of them are expats, though. Benjamin Lester just typed in, day 10, y'all need a break.
I will say I'm going to crash pretty hard after all of these. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't having fun.
I have a question for Lewis.
Okay.
How much of your color choice is analytical, thought out, based on logic, and how much of it is just intuition? Like, this feels like the right color.
Ooh.
That's a good
More-
question, Liv.
I think more of it is my logic informs my intuition. If I were to try to take a stab at it, but if I were to have to choose as a binary situation, I think I would say that it's more logic based than intuition, because just like we were talking about with memory, you have a way of remembering with narrative. One of the ways I remember a scene is based off of the science and logic of what's happening in the scene. So if I'm looking at a sunset or looking at like a cloud situation like this, I am observing it in a way in my head that is like saying, okay, that's the light's coming from there, and that's the lightest area, and that has the color, and those colors are relating to each other because of this. So I'm kind of like Evie in the sense that I got a biochem degree, and I like science is something I love, and so the physics of light and science stuff like that are really interesting to me. So it helps me remember what should be happening and properties of things that should be happening when I observe them, and it's easy to remember them better that way for painting.
Interesting. I like it. Good, good, good.
Let's see. Joyce says, I'm painting from a black and white photo of a girl who will have red hair.
Oh, cool.
I love red hair.
Yes, you do. Redheads are awesome.
Redheads. are
Honestly, Liv, I would love to do a portrait of you at some point. Like, just you in general would be really fun to paint, but I actually don't think I've ever painted anyone with red hair before, so it'd be a fun
I would love it.
time.
Would love it.
I would love to paint every person here.
Everybody here has like very beautiful qualities to their faces. Like, it's cool because there's a lot of uniqueness. Nobody looks the same, but
Yeah.
everybody's like beautiful.
We should all just sit in a circle, painting each other.
We should.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, why not? Has anybody out there ever tried to do that before with their friends? I'm curious to know.
Well, believe it or not,
That'd be a lot of fun.
I was looking at, there's a Colorado group that paints over at Daniel Sprick's place, and I was looking at several of them weren't painting the model; they were painting all the people painting the model, or drawing all the people drawing the model. And there's one, I can't remember his name, but he's a pretty known draftsman in the Instagram world. He has a huge following. And he literally just released a video of him drawing the people drawing the model this morning when I was looking at it.
Art imitates life.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that would be a fun little holiday activity for us to do. We can just...
I wonder if
I
there's
know.
any way I could do that for Painting from Life. If not, we can just do it just us and have a fun time doing it. But it'd be interesting if we could like set up cameras in a way that it could be all of us, everybody observing, all of us observing everybody. What a meta situation.
That'd be so cool.
People observing people observing people.
Y'all let us know if you'd want to see that. It's a cool idea. Let's see. Sean Kelly asks, what weight of paper do you recommend to treat for oil painting? I would say it kind of depends on what your purpose is. I have actually just taken a moleskin sketchbook and treated it with sizing and done little oil sketches in my sketchbook. You do have to like keep the pages open for a bit to let it dry, but that works perfectly fine for just like quick little sketches, getting ideas out. If you're trying to actually take this paper and then later mount it to a panel or a board of some sort, I would recommend using a thicker paper. And as far as like the texture of that surface, you could use something that has a little bit of tooth to it, and that can help with the priming process. Or if you really wanted to use something like super, super smooth and flat, I've even done it with Bristol board before, and that's worked decently well. And Joyce says, I'm blocking and using Rublev dry pigments wetted with alcohol. That's interesting. I've never tried that before. That's really cool.
Yeah, you could get some really crazy effects doing that.
Kind of like alcohol inks. Have you ever played with those?
Or maybe even like the where you can paint charcoal, and it has a really interesting effect. I bet it has some effects that are similar to that.
Benjamin asks, does the reflection of your shirt color influence your temperature? I find myself wearing black all the time to avoid that. That I've wondered, but I don't know for a fact if that's something that if it actually does or not, because it's so in your peripheral and your cones live so much more in your focal point that I'm wondering if it doesn't influence you as much as you think it does, or as much as one would think. That's probably a better way of saying it. But that doesn't mean you should stop or that it's not true. Absolutely, if you feel that it is, then, keep doing it. I wear black all the time just because I like to wear black. I'm not sure if it helps, though. I've never really thought about that.
Alex and Divya, it was funny when Alex and Divya were here, there was a lot of black wearing.
We were like a little goth crew.
Yeah, that's true.
There was that one day Alex and I actually both wore the exact same black t-shirt.
That's right. I forgot all about that. Wow. Pretty cool.
Let's see. Carolus Duran insisted on the use of a limited palette of colors: black, Verda, okay, hang on. Verda Emerald, Raw Umber, Cobalt, Lac Ordinaire, Brun Rouge, Yellow Ochre, and White, laid out from left to right. Sorry if I totally butchered the pronunciation of any of those, which I'm sure I did. And that was from Stephanie. And I think that that's kind of in tandem with the way that we organize a lot of our colors as well. Kind of jumping back into palette organization.
Mm.
And Stephanie also clarifies, Duran was Sargent's mentor.
Yeah, Sargent's painting of Duran's like the best.
It's epic.
Epic.
Such a great painting.
I mean, he's like 23 or something when he did it. A baby.
Benjamin asks, were all of you attractive before you started painting, or did the painting make y'all more attractive? Who knows?
It's a chicken and egg situation. I just don't know.
You think I'm pretty?
What are you talking about? You're gorgeous. You're beautiful.
There you go.
Darling.
You're gorgeous, darling. I love it.
There's that New Yorker
Yeah.
coming out.
It's like the New Yorker Broadway producer side of me. Livia, baby. Yeah, gorgeous. I love it. Just like that. Fabulous.
Thank you, thank you.
Let's see. Both Sean Kelly and Pickles say that they have painted other people painting. Pickles says, our Seattle art group has painted other painting groups painting.
Who is
Very
that?
fun. This is Pickles Pico de Gallo. I love it.
Pickles, I'm from that area.
Hey!
Seattle.
And speaking of pickles, we were talking about pickles earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were, yeah. I was telling Liv, she is currently keeping some of her solvent in a Mount Olive pickle jar, and I think that's really sweet. Mount Olive is actually here in North Carolina, and I was telling her I had a professor in art school who was from Mount Olive, living up in Maryland, and he explained that growing up, he and his friends would always complain because the whole town smelled like pickles.
I can imagine.
Sounds like a good thing to me.
Yeah, exactly. If you love pickles, it's amazing.
Yeah, if you love pickles, save your pickle jars. Use them for solvent. Why not? I think I've done that with several like pasta sauce jars before, or like passata jars.
I have a pickle jar right back there. That plastic one is a pickle
Hey.
jar, and it does still smell like pickles. You put your nose in it, it is very pickly.
Even after the solvent?
No, I haven't put anything in it yet.
Okay.
I just washed it. I just washed it to get ready to be able to use, because every artist knows that every jar and every box has potential to be used.
Yes. This is actually a jar of sweet heat jalapeno slices, though.
Oh, my mistake.
Pickled jalapenos.
There you go. Ooh, even better. That sounds
Even
yummy.
better.
Yeah.
Great on nachos.
I like to do
I'm down.
quickles at home for cooking.
Quickles?
Quickles. They're like quick pickles that you can make yourself. You make your own brine with vinegar over a stove with different spices
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
whatnot. And stick whatever you want. I like to do carrots. And actually this summer I tried watermelon rind.
You brought that over, and it was amazing.
So yummy. For any of you folks out there who like to eat watermelon, don't throw out your watermelon rinds. Keep them, trim off the peel or the surface, throw them in a pickle. They're insanely delicious. There's actually a whole curry in India that is based on watermelon rinds. Fun fact.
That's so interesting.
That is pretty cool.
Never would have thought.
The great thing about doing these and knowing that you're giving yourself liberty to fail is that you feel like, hey, I'm going to try this. I'm going to push this, put that there, and I'm not worried about if this painting turns out or not. It's just about making it fun. I wouldn't know anything about that, though.
Jumping
having
back to
fun.
the t-shirt issue, Edie says, to paraphrase Coco Chanel, I'm wearing black until they come up with a darker color.
That's awesome.
I think that's great. I agree with that. And let's see, Stephanie says, Strathmore 400 oil painting papers with protective sheet bound in, lay down a layer of pastel washed with isopropyl alcohol as an underpainting. Cool. I've never used alcohol in an underpainting before. That's interesting.
Sounds like your next endeavor, Evie.
Yep. To do some more material explorations.
Before I start getting into those details, I might as well go ahead and get the rest of my canvas covered. I keep wanting to get into all the nitty gritty, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have that area done yet.
I get it. I get it.
I feel like this little dark area over here in this corner, or not corner, but bottom part of the page is so important for the clouds over here. It's that I've been talking this whole month about the yin-yang symbol and how the little dot of dark in the light and the little light dot in the dark. And this is a little dark dot in the light right here. Perfect example. It gives the clouds context over here on this side of the painting. And my OCD self would normally be like, did I put that in the perfect spot? And today I'm just like, doesn't matter. This is an experiment. Doesn't have to be in the perfect spot. Just needs to be a dark spot in the light area.
I used to have OCD.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like diagnosed OCD?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that
Liv, we're
fun?
learning so much about you, and everybody else is too. Awesome. Well, I wouldn't say awesome, but I'm hopeful that it hasn't been too hard on you.
I have since recovered.
Okay, cool.
But yeah.
I actually have met several artists who've been diagnosed with that.
It was one of those things where I was about to be like, oh, I have so-and-so friend that's got it too. And, and then I was like, it's probably not good for me to just announce to everybody something that is, they're not having the liberty to say, give permission, whether I'm telling everybody in the world that they have a condition. So, but I do have other friends that you may or may not know that are diagnosed with it or have been in the past. So I didn't know, I always thought it was something that you either had and that you're still getting, I don't know, recovering from. I wouldn't call it recovering. What would you call it? That's something that you live
Like
with.
manage.
That you manage. That's the word I'm looking for. Versus it being something that you can get rid of. So that's cool.
I think some people just manage it for the rest of their life, but it's like also can be like eating with disorders where people recover from that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, I'm learning something new because I don't know much about that. I always say like I'm OCD about this, but it just becomes like a term when it's an actual, serious condition.
I think that speaks to something really important to remember is that, we as artists, we're not art machines, we're all human. And, being human comes with a lot of its own challenges and complications. And there can be a lot of beauty that comes out of that, honestly. And I think that, in terms of artists in particular, that can also lend itself to our drive and our passion to create and do what we do.
Absolutely. And it can influence in a positive way the style of our work. Like how we create is due to circumstances of our personality.
That's why I will never stop fussing.
There you go.
Can't let it go.
That's right. I hear you. Maybe I should go get tested for it. I definitely am one of those people that can't stop fussing.
I think that's a funny thing to think of for artists as being professionally fussy.
I always used to envy my buddy Michael Klein because he was so good about just letting it be and being like, yep, I'm done. It's in the past now, and like he would never worry about like going back to fix something. It's like, nope, that was done, moving on. And I just can't do that. Like if I have vision for it, there's things I want to fix, then I will keep working on it till I've got them fixed.
Paul says, with the harvest just completed here in Burgundy, when we walk down the street in our wine village, the smell of fermenting grapes can give one a buzz. Honestly, that sounds pretty beautiful, though.
That sounds incredible.
Burgundy in the fall. I don't know if it can get much more picturesque than that.
Yep.
We have another person who says, "Hi, this is Alda here, and would just like to say it's late here in South Africa, but I'll try this definitely tomorrow." Thank you so much, Alda.
Oh,
That's
cool.
awesome.
Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah. And we will be here. Well, we won't be here tomorrow, actually. But the live stream, you can check all the ones we've recorded, and then we'll be back on Monday live. So just remember, I wanted to make it where we had a lot of challenges don't have the weekends. It's just like a 30-day solid challenge. And I wanted people to have a chance on the weekends to try some of the things or the videos that they were unavailable for beforehand. So
Give everybody a couple days to catch up.
yeah, and a couple of days for us to like recover too. You know, just all around. Like you said, we're not machines. We all need some R&R.
James says, "Canvas covered after an hour and a half. Time for coffee and looking to decide next steps."
Sweet. I've almost got Canvas covered.
We have another question. Have you ever ruined a painting by fussing too much?
Yes.
I think we all.
Oh man,
I think we would all say yes to
that's
that,
a right. That's
that
a rite
question.
of passage.
It's a rite of passage. I think, I think many, if not most, artists would respond yes to that question.
Honestly, it's part of the exploration process. You know, it's kind of like when you see a kid like pushing things around on his plate of food or something. You know, they're not just doing that to play. They're actually like practicing things and just ruining it for the purpose of understanding. So I tell people you should actually push things to a degree that ruins it. If you make sure it's an experiment. We're not talking about something you're committed to being the most perfect painting, but you want to push things a lot because if you don't push them to the limits, you won't know where the limit is, and it allows for you to be able to make better decisions in the future.
Definitely. You kind of have to learn where the stopping point is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a tough skill to develop, is kind of like knowing when to stop, or as we say here at the studio, calling time of death.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, a few days ago, Liv was saying something. I said, okay, it's time to call time of death on this. And she's like, oh, that sounds sad. We should say, time of birth. Because we made the painting.
Aww.
And I was like, oh, that's so lovely.
That's much more wholesome.
He was being a sad puppy. I wanted to make him happier.
She's good at that. She's got great encouraging skills. It's time to push color. And in fact, in these situations, I'm okay pushing these things to a point of failure. Not that I felt like I have, but I'm willing to see if I can like grasp a concept. So I'm reaching out to my audience and saying, do the same. Be okay with it.
Yeah, I think that can open up a lot of opportunity to play around and experiment. Whereas, if you were like really, really focused on just getting a good looking final product, or, getting the perfect painting, quote unquote, then, you're not going to take as many risks. You're not going to take as many chances, and, you might not learn as much from it. I think it's really good to just enjoy the process for what it is, rather than trying to, imagine point B from point A from the get-go.
Agree with that.
Evie and I have similar experiences in college where both of us did a lot of pottery classes, and I had one of my favorite teachers was a pottery teacher, and at the end of a semester one year, my first semester with him, and I really liked him, and I'd never made a B in any of my classes. I made all A's up to this point, and he gave me a B, and I had asked him in the middle of the semester because he didn't give grades in the middle, he just gave one final grade. I was just like, everything good? I'm not seeing any grades, so I don't know what my progress is. Oh, no, you're great. You're good. And then he gave me a B, and came to him like, what's up with the B? And he's like, oh, B is great. An A is near perfect, but a B is great. And I was like, well, I needed to know that that I need to make something that's near perfect. And I was like, I need you to tell me. I want to do whatever it takes to do the thing. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to come to you, and really tell you what you need to correct. I was like, absolutely, have at it. So the next semester, I was taking him for the next pottery class, and he was like, okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. And I was like, okay. And I was about to put my hands back on it. He goes, wait, what are you doing? I was like, I'm about to fix the things. He's like, oh, no, smush it. And I was like, smush this thing I just worked 5 hours on the wheel with? He's like, yep.
Yep.
And he's like, you're going to make it better the next time around just knowing what you need to fix. And you need to let go of being too committed to any pot. You got to understand that it takes a million pots to make a good one. And the same idea is with paintings. If you go to Lip King's studio or Kwang Ho's studio or Daniel Sprick, any of those people, you will see stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of paintings, panels that are just sitting on top of each other, of work that they've pushed through to experiment, to try something. And so always loved that, because I felt like there were some serious truths that I learned from that experience because of that.
I like that story.
And then I got an A in that next year. And it might be because I just hounded him so many times to come critique the thing. He's like, Lewis, it's not about the A. I was like, I know,
Yes,
but
it
it's
is.
still about the A for me in my head.
What do you mean it's not about the A? It's all
I think
about the A.
That's such a beautiful philosophy, though, with clay and ceramics that also applies to painting, is that, it's not about the product, it's about the process.
Yep.
And I think as painters, it can be easy for us to kind of stray from that sometimes, and, holding on to that appreciation of the process itself and what we do, and seeing the value of the process rather than the end result, is a really, really important thing to remind yourself of.
It is. I am learning and growing as a person by being here.
Yay! That's awesome. That's so cool. Benjamin Lester says, a painting is like a child. Push them to greatness, and if they break, make another one. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before, but you know what? I don't think I'm going to forget that anytime soon. That's funny. James says, doing 20 days is cool. I only found you this week. I'll be catching up on some of the first week this Saturday and Sunday. Really appreciate what you're doing. A mini oil painting course. Thank you so much, James.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you joining and being a part of it. We enjoy making them for you. And if you find it fun, please show your appreciation just by touching the thumbs up. It takes 2 seconds. We really appreciate that.
Ooh, oh, I forgot about this. Yeah. Paul says, hope you can use your Saturday downtime to see the solar eclipse. About 50% coverage near East Oaks at about noontime. We get nothing here in France. P.S. I studied astrophysics in college. That's awesome.
Wow, that is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot about the eclipse. My fiance was telling me about that last month, actually, and we were trying to decide where we could go to like get a good view around here locally. That's so cool. Thank you for reminding us. That's awesome.
So the first year that East Oaks was in Raleigh, they had an eclipse over by the mountains, and we drove over and painted plein air that day during the eclipse. And it was the most incredible, surreal experience I've ever had. And this coming April, I believe, there's going to be another total solar eclipse in Arkansas, and my father-in-law has a lake house there, and it's going to be going straight over it. So we're all going to meet over at the lake house for it to watch it and spend some time together with family. So, no, I have such a fascination with astronomy. I wouldn't say that I would even say an avid hobbyist, but I absolutely love going out and looking at the stars and subscribe to several astronomy Facebook groups and stuff to let me know what's going on. But for some reason I knew that there were two coming up. I didn't know when the first one was. I just remember the one in April is the one we could do.
Yeah, this one, if I remember correctly, there's a term to describe it that I'm blanking on the technical term, but this one is a particular kind of eclipse where because of the elliptical orbit, the moon is going to be smaller in proportion to the sun, to our eye from Earth. So there's going to be more of a ring of light kind of effect in the sky. Paul, if you know the term for that, let me know.
I'm sure he does.
I cannot remember the term for that, but I remember looking that up last month. Louis, I should bring my telescope out here next full moon.
I didn't know you had one.
Oh, yeah.
I would love
come
that.
on.
We just bought.
Nerdy. I think every nerd has a telescope or microscope or some kind of scope, you know.
I grew up with one, and we just bought one for my father-in-law for his lake house, and so I installed it last time I was there. I can't wait. We'll have to go out somewhere where there's less light pollution and for such an occasion. Is there any lunar eclipses coming on? There's always something going on in the sky, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about lunar eclipses. One of my favorite times I ever got to break out my telescope was several years ago. There was a comet visible from here in North Carolina, and my partner and I went out into the country that night, kind of like away out of town, getting away from light pollution, and set up the telescope after a day of fishing, and it was so beautiful. And just, tying that back into painting. I mean, just cultivating a natural curiosity and appreciation for the world around us. Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, Jen says it's called the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, annular. Thank you, Julie. An annular eclipse. That's the term for it. Thanks, y'all. Sean says it's going to be 90% in Salt Lake City, so it'll get super dark.
Well, our friend Jeff Hine will be able to watch it. Fully then.
Pickles asks, when touching up my oil painting on a thick spot that has a film over it from starting to dry after a day or so, is there a tip to add to it or spread it without it looking weird or noticeable? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have to start that one over. I was concentrating.
Okay,
it was a long question.
When touching up my oil painting on a thick spot that has a film over it from starting to dry after a day or so,
Okay.
is there a tip to add to it or spread it without it looking weird or noticeable?
I would let it dry a little longer before I would add to it or push it around, just because the film on top, and of course I don't know how like thick the film is or anything like that, so I can't speak to that part of it, but I would wait till it was able to dry enough to where you put your thumbnail into it and twist, and if it didn't move, then it's dry enough, which is a litmus test that George O'Hanlon would always talk about. If you're not sure if it's dry enough, that would be a way of testing it.
Yeah, that's a good question, Pickles. Thank you. I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and that just has a lot to do with timing and what kind of pigments you're using, and if you're using any medium and what kind of medium you might be using along with your paint.
Liv, how you doing over there?
It's okay. I'm okay with it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's looking great.
What is the time?
We are at about 3:45 currently.
Okay. We have time. And I feel okay about it. If it was 5, I would feel less okay with it, but.
Nah, you are all good.
How are you doing, Lewis?
I'm having fun now, just starting to play with broken color and, pushing warms and cools in different places to give it effect.
Drama.
Might change up our brushes here in a second too, to kind of like get closer to these smaller brushes to like play around with shapes and different textures more.
Lewis, do you want to talk really quickly about some of the properties of moonlight and how that can differentiate a bit from sunlight in painting?
Yeah, that's a fun topic. Speaking of
Eclipses.
and celestial beings. So one of the differences that I think a lot of people make the mistake on when they're working with trying to make a night scene versus a day scene is they want to try to create the most contrast possible to make it feel like the sun, right? And because you want the white to feel bright. But the problem is that the properties around the sun are showing, like the sun's hitting all of these molecules in the atmosphere. And that's the main reason why we have a blue sky. And what's happening is as our eye gets closer to the sun, all those molecules are brighter, closer to the sun, and it creates ambience. And that's what makes something feel bright, is how much of the ambience is being emitted around it. So because of that, the moon is just the opposite. So the moon actually has it has a much darker relationship of ambience. And that's the thing you would want more contrast for versus the sun, because it's not able to emit enough light to create the ambience that the sun can. So I often tell people that the darker you have around the area of the sun pushes it to almost start feeling more like the moon. So just to be aware of that so that you can then adjust accordingly. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the values typically are more compressed, or the color range is more compressed with the moon. So you can actually create the painting to be a warmer painting, but as long as the color harmonies are more compressed in their relationship to others, so the painting would be more tonal, in other words, allows for it to feel more like a night scene, because our rods and our eyes don't have color reception. So because of the limited amount of light that's at nighttime, our eye can't see as much color, and so therefore it creates a more tonal relationship for our eye. And so it mimics how we perceive, when in actuality, if you had something that had a, like a low light camera that had really just insane sensors on it, it would actually still look like a sunny day with color and everything at nighttime, just because of the fact that it's able to receive the right color photons that our eye can't necessarily receive. So we are mimicking a painting according to what our eye and our retina sees versus what say a high sensing camera could see. What's actually being emitted.
Awesome.
I heard recently that that the moon actually emits, Kelvin-wise, it emits like something like 2,000 Kelvin, like it's super orange. But because we can't see in low light, our minds don't register it as really yellow. Now, I need to do more deep diving on that. I don't know if that's factually true. I was hearing it from a friend that read it somewhere, I think on some sort of science article. But I'm intrigued to see if that's true or not.
Yeah, I wonder if that has to do with the reflective process, where some of the light is getting absorbed by the moon's surface, and then the light that's bouncing back to Earth that we perceive is what's kind of left over.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating that was a thing.
Lori says, just happened upon this while taking a break. I've been turning images to black and white and intend to paint the values and colors. This is serendipitous. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, we're glad to be here for you. And join us for the rest of the month. There's still 2 more weeks of us doing this. We'd love to have you.
Oh, interesting. Stephanie says NASA will be shooting 3 rockets at tomorrow's solar eclipse to quote unquote test moon qualities. I did not know that. My fiance's dad used to be a photographer for a newspaper syndicate down in Georgia. And back in the 70s and 80s, he photographed a bunch of rocket launches at Cape Canaveral. And so in our house, we have just a bunch of random rocket photos that he took.
That's awesome.
It's pretty fun.
All right, let's see about putting some more color relationships down here in the green.
I think a lot of people struggle with painting water in terms of our eyes perceiving it and its reflective quality as too chromatic. And I think a lot of people also too have struggles painting horizon lines in a composition like this. Do you have any advice for folks?
Horizon lines are really hard to get straight. When in doubt, let it dry and then use a piece of masking tape to see about lining it up better. I know some people use yardsticks and things like that to create a good straight horizon line. one of the ways that I would say that's helpful is you can create a really straight line with your brush if you hold the end of your brush like this, and start by laying the brush down onto your canvas, and then once it's anchored, it takes the jitters out of your hand. It like doesn't translate the jitters out of your hand, and it helps you make a much straighter line. And it also allows for you to step back and make sure that it's working. So everybody thinks that more control happens when you're like this, and it's just the opposite. The most control for making straight lines is back here on the end of your brush handle. So that's one advice I'd have about horizon lines as far as the painting the water is concerned and the reflective quality. Water is one of those that there's a million different ways that it could be different, and you have to get used to the idea of what's happening in what scenario. In this instance, because we're painting like, a very either large lake or ocean, the horizon line is going to be really, really straight, and there's going to be a decent contrast between the horizon line and the sky, and to make sure that you're thinking about those things. Also, people often will make the reflection too bright. So as long as the reflection is slightly darker than your light source, that's all that really matters, unless the light source isn't in your painting. So in this instance, it is. So I have like the moon up there bringing light down. And so the reflection on the water is going to be slightly darker than the reflection or the light emission from the moon. Now that makes sense like logically, but a lot of people don't think about that, and they make it as bright as the moon, but some of that light's being absorbed and scattered. So if you think about it as physics, you would go, oh, okay, well, it can't be, because it is obviously reflecting. It's not actually emitting. Of course, the moon's reflecting too, but in the night scene, that's the only thing emitting light, or only thing reflecting the sun. So it's still gonna be the brightest thing.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's looking really good, you two. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm having fun.
That does look nice. Good job.
So, Liv, I notice as you're blocking in, you're keeping the face very flat and sort of nondescript, which I think is something that a lot of people struggle with. I think it's really easy when painting a portrait to jump into the face and get kind of sucked in by it. Do you have any tips for people who struggle with that?
Well, Lewis mentioned to me not that long ago, a method he does is he'll work on the background and like everything except for the focal point, and then he'll do the focal point in order to have the color harmonies and everything else correct, because it's so horrible to go into the face and like get it how you want, but then you realize it doesn't even fit in the painting. So what was that phrase you used? You like to leave yourself a carrot?
Mm-hmm, yep.
That's what Lewis
Put
says.
a carrot in front of the horse, yep.
So it keeps you going. So if you can resist temptation, it's often for the best. These colors, yo. So hard.
You're doing great.
Yeah, you're crushing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to look so lovely. It's actually, and to talk more about like what she's talking about, I would also say that the context for your face sometimes we'll get a color down because we have like white canvas or like a tone on our canvas. And sometimes that can easily influence your painting color. And I personally think that often we need the context of the surrounding color to get a more accurate understanding of what we want the focal point color to be. And one of the things we're trying to do is resist, losing freshness. And if that's the case, then we need to protect the freshness on the most important part of the face. And so if we get everything around making sense, then by the time we get to the face or the focal point of the painting, we have a better chance of being more accurate to what the final thing was from the get-go, and we don't have to like overwork it to correct ourselves a whole lot because the context of the whole painting has changed, So that's why I think that is helpful for people.
There you go, straight from the source.
There you go.
I'm finding myself mixing a color. Like, I'll think, oh, this would be a good color for the shadow of the sleeve. And I'll mix it, like red, and then I'll have it mixed. I'll be like, no, this doesn't seem right. Maybe green. And then I'll mix a new one. No, this doesn't seem right. And then I'm like, maybe purple. So I'm just going in circles a little bit.
It's okay.
But eventually we land on something.
Well, I think that's kind of part of the cool process of working from a black and white image is, you can really play around and decide those color choices for yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Arjeet asks a question. Is 48 too late to take painting professionally? It was my hobby in my teens. My skill is I can paint like photography, also got some sense of composition. What I lack is improvisation and modifying from references. I would say go for it. It's never too late to paint.
Never too late. Whenever I get this question, I always tell them, just look at Grandma Moses, who started painting when she was 80. And she became one of the most prolific painters of all time. I can't remember how many paintings she made, but she made a significant amount and made a huge impact in the art world. So if she can do it, anyone can do it at any age, So many people, we live in a culture that seems to revere like youth and like 30 under 30 and like who's like the new and up and coming thing. But the beauty of painting historically, they say that you reach your stride in painting, that most people kind of like start getting known or full development at the age of 50 or 55. So if that's the case, there's plenty of time,
You still got time.
You still got time. And I mean, there's founder, I use a lot of different businesses as opportunities to use examples, but like the founder of KFC, he didn't start KFC until he was like, I think 70. So, and I know that's a business, but if anyone's ever built a business, I would think that's harder sometimes than getting yourself back on the horse of learning to paint, especially if you've had experience in the past,
I was actually watching a documentary last night. That's a documentary series on centenarians. And what you said about our society, or at least Western society, largely revering youth rather than age and experience and wisdom. I think it's kind of a fun, unusual, and probably kind of improper sort of shift in our cultural mindset. And, this documentary that I was watching was showing elders from all over the world, working in their gardens and cultivating their own food on their own homesteads that they are in charge of themselves. It showed a 102-year-old man riding a horse, herding
Yeah.
cattle.
Crazy, right?
I mean, yeah, it is never too late. I think, as long as we are on this earth, it is the right time to paint. If you're
Yeah.
here and you want to paint, that's the right time to
That's
paint.
right. And the other thing is that people, I know that he was directly asking about being professional about it. But sometimes I tell people, look, there's a lot of reasons to learn to paint, not just being a professional. It's therapeutic. It allows for you to create cognitive connections in your head, which is really good for staving off things like Alzheimer's and things like that.
Neuroplasticity.
Good old neuroplasticity, man. And because of that, there's 100 reasons why, outside of it just being a profession, of why it would be a beautiful thing to create. It's just built in us. And we should all look for some reason, something that we can do that exercises our creative mind, whether it be dancing or even composing or writing letters. And writing is just an incredible thing to do. Something to work your mind and make it work hard is, I think, incredibly important. I watched that same show, man, and I was so inspired by that 100-year-old guy writing. I mean, the guy looks like he's 60,
Yeah, but it showed that for those of you who haven't seen it out there, it's a documentary series that's on Netflix right now about centenarians. And this man is from a region of northern Costa Rica where the average biological age of its inhabitants is around 10 years younger than they actually are. It's just fascinating. My older brother actually lives not too far away from there in Costa Rica.
which is pretty cool. Pretty stinking cool.
Maybe he'll live longer than me because of it. Who knows? To follow up, James says, never too late, I'm over 50. And Mia says, there's a few of us late bloomers. Absolutely. It's never too late to bloom.
Yeah, there's no timeline.
There's
Everybody does things in their own time.
There is, I want to say his name's AJ, or maybe his handle on Instagram is or something, but
AJ Alper?
is that it? He paints a lot of sort of alla prima portraits. He started later on, I think. And he's made a full career. He finally quit his job. But I don't think he started, he wanted to go to art school. And I met him for the first time at Portrait Society. He was there and I recognized his face and I came over and said hey to him and said that told him that I was proud of how he's carved out his world of painting, and told me how much he appreciated that. But I'm very impressed with him because he had tons of people tell him, he got rejected from art school, and tons of people told him that he couldn't do it, and he went and did it anyway. And that's the same story of Marshall Bolden, the guy who was my role model growing up. People told him that, said no, and he was like, okay, and he went and farmed for a little while, and then was like, I hate this, I'm gonna try it again, and then became incredibly known and painted Nixon's kids and countless congressmen and senators, and had a full, renowned career, and he didn't start until he was 45. So, and he took 3 years just to learn how to mix paint. So he wasn't until I think 47 or 48 before he actually started taking on commissions and doing the whole thing. So don't let somebody ever tell you no, especially if they don't know you. They're coming. What they're really saying is they couldn't make it happen. And that, I think that's always something to remember. They're not saying that it can't be done. There's plenty of people out there that are making it happen. They're just saying that they couldn't, or that they couldn't see themselves making it happen. So they're trying to project that onto you. So belief is the most important part.
Absolutely. I think, some people in this life, they're going to try to make the hardest part about painting picking up the brush. And, there's some days where that might be true. But it is never too late to start, never too late to believe in yourself, never too late to go for it. Yeah, we believe that wholeheartedly here.
Yes, we do. I think everybody's got a chance. Go ahead.
See, story time. My great-grandmother, who lived in Iowa, played bridge with Grant Wood and Marvin Cohn. Marvin Cohn is probably lesser-known American scene painter. Grant Wood probably is best known for American Gothic.
Mm-hmm.
But so she played bridge with the two of them.
It's just wild.
And Louis, your palette cam just went out. Sorry, folks. We'll get that adjusted.
The phone ran out of batteries because I think there's a disconnect on my phone charger. So I'm going to just charge it up, and as soon as it's charged, I'll reinstate it.
But yeah, my great-grandmother started dabbling in painting at a late age because of that, because, these friends of hers inspired her, and I think that's beautiful. Let the people in your life inspire you and inspire others. It's sort of a pay-it-forward philosophy of art making.
Well, I don't know about anybody else out there, but there's a fly that thinks that my painting's real. It keeps wanting to fly into the sky.
Oh, no.
And keeps getting stuck on my painting. I'll take it as a compliment, little guy.
He just thinks it's so beautiful. It's where he wants to go live.
That's right. Honestly, I wouldn't mind having a porch that just overlooked the scene every day. Wouldn't mind living there myself.
So now in our final hour of painting,
Can't believe it's already almost.
hey, time flies when you're having fun.
That's right. and everybody knows I'm having fun.
What are you guys thinking about in this last hour as you're starting to wind down and finish up?
For me, it's more about, in this final hour, it's more about trying to push the broken color harmony of the painting and kind of create fun textures. I might even switch over different brushes. If y'all haven't noticed, one thing I've been working on subconsciously, I don't know if I've really announced it much, but trying to use less brushes, because I'll try to use 20 different brushes, and I'm trying to do a lot with just a few. And that's been a lot of fun to try too. So, but I might switch over a couple of brushes for the purpose of laying in some more texture, or maybe something smaller that would allow me to drag some color around. So those are two of the things I'm thinking about.
Could you explain what you mean by broken color harmony?
Yeah, so Broken color is the idea of, if you think of like Georges Seurat's painting, he's like a pointillist painter, you know, is most known for, I think it's called A Walk in the Park, maybe?
Oh,
Stroll in
that's
the Park.
in Chicago, right?
Yeah. It's the idea that if you put two different colors next to each other and keep doing that, kind of like dot matrix, they start to weld together as you get back, but they create these color vibrations in your eye because your eye perceives color wavelengths hit your retina slightly at different rates. And because of that, it helps create this like vibrational feeling in the work. Then it makes it very entertaining for people to look at. That's why like Impressionist work is subconsciously so appealing to people, is because of broken color relationships. And so there's one of my favorite things about this painting is its broken color relationships, and one of the reasons I love Emil Carlsen's work so much. And so so for that reason, I'm trying to like play with that idea, because it's a fun experiment to me to push that a little bit. So I'm adding like notes of red into the clouds here and there, and greenish hues as they get lower. But as they get higher in the sky, I might try to do warmer, yellower hues. So it's more about pushing and pulling those color relationships around, making it work.
Nice. And as I am wrapping things up, kind of, I've just gotten everything pretty much covered. And so I am moving into things with a little bit more detail to try to make it more cohesive, get the edges a little bit more where they need to be, and work on adding in some more color, pushing the values a bit. I got the foundation, now it's time to make it a little prettier.
There you go.
Joyce says, "Hey Liv, you look like the Boogaroo girl that you're painting."
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, that is definitely a thank you.
I appreciate that. It's been fun so far to paint. I think maybe I overestimated what I could do in 3 hours, though.
It's okay. I do that all the time.
All the time.
I did that yesterday. That's what we do.
Overconfidence. is the
Hey,
key
it's
to success.
ambition. It
It's
is ambition.
And it, you know, and it's not about finishing, it's about experimenting.
Yes.
So as long as we keep that in mind, I think we're good. We're golden.
We're golden.
It's looking good though. You've got a really nice sense of like she's putting her weight on that stick. You know what I mean? I think that that's something that a lot of people who do figurative work really struggle with, is like trying to communicate the weight of the body and how it correlates to the way that our muscles tense and relax. And yeah, it's kind of like a different language in and of itself, but you've done a really great job.
Thank you. I feel the skin tones. I'm a little having trouble. They're a little bit dead right now, but I'm glad the drawing is right, because that's kind of what I was focusing on.
Yeah.
No, drawing is important. I always focus on that too at the beginning, sometimes to my own demise for these kinds of things.
Paul clarified that the Seurat painting that you mentioned is called A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte.
Oh, that's definitely not a walk in the park, is it? Yes.
AKA a walk in the park.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm glad I became an artist and not a historian.
I think we all knew what painting you were talking about.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Yeah, you're fine.
Thank you, though. That was very helpful. Anytime somebody can help me remember some art historical thing that I'm trying to reference, I am deeply appreciative.
There's just so much to remember.
Yep. You know, artists have a hard time with stuff, but you know, we have a lot of responsibilities. We are philosophers and historians and chemists, and we're business entrepreneurs. You know, we have to wear a lot of hats. So we're I like to say that we're jacks of all trades, but trying to be a master of one.
Ooh,
We're really cool.
love it. Yeah, I always try to remind myself, you know, back when I was in school and studying art history, it was impressed upon me that, you know, what we learn about in our textbooks is not all there is. That's just a narrow sliver of art history seen through a particular person's lens. And I think it's really, really important to retain a critical eye and critical thinking in learning about art history to inform your own art practice. So, you know, don't just use one book. Go out, see many, many sources that reference art from all over the world because it is there. I think, you know, especially studying art history in America, in the West, it's easy to get sort of a West-centric perspective on art history, and it's really, really important to remember that there's so much more than that. So yeah, nurture and cultivate that curiosity, and go out and let that study be a part of your practice because it really is important. Let's see. Arjit asks, how do you decide what will be your next painting? Whew, that's a good question.
Well,
how do y'all do that?
yeah, I'll let you. How about you two answer that? Because mine is not as fun.
You go, Evie.
Oh man. Oh crap. How do I decide? I don't know how I decide, honestly. I think I suffer from an issue of having too many things that I want to paint that I feel really impassioned by. And it can be really hard to select just one idea or one thing to work from. But oftentimes I find that, you know, if I'm working on a painting and I'm I've got my mind sort of going in a particular direction, I can be really inspired to paint something else based on the previous painting I did. For instance, I recently painted a study of a peacock feather, and I got really, really into this quality of iridescence and light that it had, and it inspired me to paint some more iridescent surfaces. And that's not really something that I intended to kind of pursue, but I think it's good to retain a kind of flexibility in what inspires you and what you want to investigate a little bit further. What about you, Liv?
I like that you kind of let your curiosity lead the way. For me, what I decide to paint next, often I like to change my subjects pretty frequently because I get kind of burnt out. It depends on whether I had success or failure with the last piece I did. So if I did a portrait and I had success, I'll probably want to do another portrait. But if I had a failure, I'll probably want to change it up and do a landscape. So a lot of it has to do with that. And I think it's good to do a variety of subjects because they all teach you such different things, and all of those lessons are important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like kind of letting your work drive your own investigative process and figuring out kind of what works and what doesn't. And for those of you who follow Olivia online and have seen her stories, she made a really, really beautiful still life from life as her first piece here at East Oaks. And I think you said it was the first one you'd done in quite a while, right?
It's the first still life I've done from life. Are we talking about still life in general?
I think that's what I remember you saying, is that it was the first time you'd done a still life from life.
Yeah, it was. And then I've tried doing still lifes from photographs before, but not with much success.
Yeah, I think that's really fun because I think that's always helpful for people to hear, is like think working from life can be really intimidating if you're not used to it, and vice versa. If you're used to working from life, it can be intimidating to work from photo references. But I think developing a versatility to navigate between the two is really valuable. And I've been watching Livia do that in studio here, and it's been really, really fun to see.
Thank you. It's fun to see you. I'm so excited to see how your painting comes out. First painting from a photograph in like a year.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I've been working exclusively from life for over 1.5 years now, and I'm currently working on my first thing from a photo. And yeah, it's tackling a whole different animal. It's really, really funny the way that our brains work and get used to, perceiving light and color in certain ways.
I have faith in you.
Aw, thanks. Likewise. Let's see. Stephanie says, got accused in art school of using 2 colors in a lettering project. I had in fact used only blue, but the professor saw yellow reflected on the white of the board. That's interesting. Yeah, color behaves with color.
Yep.
Pretty wild.
Color's weird.
Well, I hope you were able to correct your professor.
Yeah, no kidding. It reminds me of the gold and white, black and blue dress.
Yeah.
Our perceptions of
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
our perceptions of color sometimes are crazy.
Honestly, that's actually a really good illustration of that. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar, this was a meme that circulated the internet in
It was like 2016, yeah, 14.
No, wait, it was before then, right?
It had to be 2014 or 15 because I was at
Okay.
GCA in Long Island City. So it had to be either 14 or 15.
Okay.
So, because 13, because I remember asking Jacob Collins what he saw. He saw white and gold.
I love that. Just asking all your art friends, like, what is this?
Yeah, we all were like, what do you see? And somebody be like, white and gold. It's like, how can you see that, man? I see blue and black.
I saw white and gold.
Yeah.
What about you, Evie?
I honestly can't remember. I would have to look at it again. But I remember being in undergrad at the time in art school, and a lot of my friends having a heated debate about it.
Yeah. And it ended up being officially that it was blue and black, but the way the camera was angled on it, it was pushing the illusion of people's perception, which was fabulous. Loved it.
Lies.
I remember at the time one of my friends who was looking at it was actually colorblind.
Oh, yeah?
But he was red-green colorblind, which I think is maybe the most kind of common form. And I remember him making a funny comment of like, wait, I'm actually seeing the same thing as you guys. And then, of course, all of us are disagreeing to begin with. So, yeah, just kind of a funny quip. Fun fact about North Carolina, speaking of like color theory, here in Western North Carolina in the mountains, we have Black Mountain College, which emerged after the Bauhaus was dissolved. And that's sort of the, I guess, solution that they had to that. So we actually have a pretty cool history of art and art theory and criticism and color theory and criticism right here in our backyard in North Carolina.
Well, that is pretty cool.
I gotta do more learning about the area.
Yeah, I think it was, I was thinking of Josef Albers in regards to color theory. He's probably the most, or at least one of the most well-known color theorists, who was a proponent of the Bauhaus. And his wife, Annie Albers, was a famous weaver who worked at Black Mountain College, I believe. I think that no matter where you live, it's valuable to find out about, whatever art scene exists in your area and the history
Yeah.
of the arts in your area. Because I think it's something that municipally can be kind of swept under the rug a little bit. And, kind of helping to support and cultivate and engender the arts in your area is really important, and doing that by learning its history is something that's very, very valuable and fun.
Absolutely. Preach it, Evie.
Preach.
Go Evie.
So let's see, y'all have about a half hour left, just to give y'all a time update. These are both looking really great, you guys.
I'm having so much fun. It's like, oh, only a half hour?
Yeah, I feel that way kind of. Like half hour, how am I gonna get it finished?
It's okay. You can keep going afterwards.
Take forever.
It's like one of my things is like, just because we're doing this as an exercise, if you love it, you keep going.
It's the great thing about being addicted to painting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a problem if I don't want to stop.
There you go.
Yeah. It's fun to try to get these like effects of the clouds as they get like soft edges and hard edges and darker and lighter, and just so many little forms to weave in.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at clouds and think like, they are composed of their own sort of subforms that are kind of like disillusioned in the sky or dissolved in the sky. But the way that the light carries throughout these particles of moisture and the way that it reflects still has like a general like system of consistency to it. So it's really fun getting to watch you paint clouds. I'm enjoying it. I feel like the only thing more relaxing than watching the clouds is watching someone paint the clouds.
Oh, that's cool. Well, good. Then that means this is going to be an entertaining video for everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. Stephanie says, don't forget a cloud is a three-dimensional object.
Yep. Remember listening to Kinsler talk one time, and he was like, some people that are having struggles with clouds, think of them more like rocks, as if you're painting rocks in the sky, because they have form, and they have a light-facing plane. And I've always loved that. I thought that was really a great way to express them. These areas over by the moon were just so bright. They're just like tiniest extra set of value darker, just the tiniest shift darker.
It's funny seeing the black and white version of your painting, Lewis. It almost, if you weren't familiar with the original Emil Carlsen painting, you could almost kind of like imagine it being in the daytime, but seeing it through like maybe a polarized lens or something, the way that the light behaves, and it's almost like seemingly like I guess more condensed or concentrated in a way. The way that the value is laid out. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about this painting, that the title is the only thing that really gives it away, because there's so much of the painting that actually feels like it could be daytime. And part of that is that ambience that's around the moon, making it feel that way. But you're totally right. It almost feels like it could be daytime. He's one of the few people where I'm like, I'm totally cool with it, me not knowing, because part of the joy of this painting is the mystery. Sometimes it's important to like have it be known, and then sometimes part of the poetry is that you don't know, or you have to, that there's a mystery involved in it. We can darken down just a little bit more some of these values over here.
Oh, I love that. Stephanie says, the moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of noonday to the object below.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Who wrote that? Did she write that, or is she quoting something?
I don't know. It's beautiful. Very relevant. I love that the intersection of art and poetry. I know Tina is often very inspired by that with her work, and I've certainly had some poetic inspirations before, and or at least like taken ideas and words and the interplay of meaning and significance communicated through language rather than images. Yeah, it's really fascinating. And with music too.
I feel like there are endless sources of inspiration. No, don't be
Yeah.
limited to just other paintings or other drawings. So many places to look.
Absolutely. Stephanie said that was from 'Twas the Night Before Christmas by Clement Moore.
Oh. What do you know? I didn't even recognize it, and I've read that so many times. Huh. I love it. Thanks for quoting that. Trying to make sure this ocean has a feeling of it being oceany.
Oceany.
Gotta make sure the ocean feels oceany.
Yeah, there's kind of this nondescript area on the right side of the painting that looks like it could be referencing either like the formation of perhaps a wave, or maybe there's like a sandbar below the surface. But I love how kind of like suggestive yet nondescript that is.
Yeah, this area right here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking it's like, at least the way I'm perceiving it, it's a less turbulent part of the water. You know, like when you look over a lake and that there's parts of the lake that have like a lot of turbulence, and then there's other parts that seem to be still. I'm wondering if that's kind of what's going on there. And I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more on the reflective side of the sky. Keep it light, but separate in color and hue.
One of my favorite beach spots to go to is near my uncle's house on the coast of North Carolina. There's an area nearby his house where there's a sound inlet that meets with the ocean, and you can see these like kind of raging turbulent waters hitting very, very calm water. And I love going out there to watch the sunset, because the way that the interaction of the water causes the light to glimmer off the surface is just incredible. I need to go out there and do a plein air painting once my palette comes in the mail.
Love it. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it.
Cove Silas says, "Hi everyone, glad I could catch the stream, even if I'm late. Everyone's painting is looking amazing."
Oh, thank you, Silas. Appreciate it.
Nice to see you again, Cove.
Yeah, he has been a part of this whole thing. It's been great. Come on, jump on in. The water's fine.
That's exactly what my fiance said to me about turning 30. The water's fine. So I know you guys are kind of in like the concentration crunch mode right now in our final 20 minutes or so. But Livia, I wanted to ask, I see you're going in a bit more on the skirt and doing like the drapery and the folds. And I was wondering if you had any advice about painting clothing specifically.
Ooh, I don't think you're asking the right person, maybe. That is a doozy. I always hear other people, really reinforce that you should think of it as planes. Think about the planes and what the planes are doing and how they are interacting with the light. But I'm not very good at it myself. Lewis did the drapery one. I feel like Lewis would have more to say on that. I always get the creases too dark or just not the right color.
Well, I would beg to differ. I think you're killer at painting clothing. Livia recently completed a figurative piece, and the model was wearing jeans, and the way that she was able to paint and articulate the like thicker texture of the denim fabric was really, really successful. So I think you're being too hard on yourself. I think you're crushing it.
Thank you.
Crush it. Crush it.
Crush it. Lewis, give us your advice, though.
On drapery?
Yeah, give us your advice on fabric.
Or clothing in particular. Like, I think it's one thing to paint drapery that's like, maybe in a still life sitting on a table, but when you're painting drapery on a figure, and trying to communicate like the form of the body that's lying underneath, I think that kind of adds a different level of complexity.
It does, yeah. I would say that the thing to consider mostly is, like you said, the points at which the figure's anatomy is coming through or pushing on pressure points of the drapery, and so making sure that is being stated. So there's like, gosh, the hardest part of that is that you need to kind of know anatomy enough to know what you should be doing in other parts of it. So I think that the most important thing is just to understand that if you understand where light's coming from and understand how things are moving away or towards the light, like light most facing plane stuff, then you're gonna be ahead of the game, because you don't have to know as much, but you have to on like anatomy or something like that. But you do need to know multiple different skill sets in order for all the skill sets to make sense together, because we can't be a master of each one of those perfectly. And so since we can't be a master of one perfectly, then we need to like understand the other ones a little bit, meaning like we need to know anatomy and we need to know how drapery works in general, like with light most facing planes and understanding form. And it's really about trying to like create that combination between those two. So I know that that's not the best answer, and it's a little bit all over the place, but that's the best answer I've got while I'm concentrating.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Trying to keep thinking about like, what would the light be feeling like if I was there, like, and it had ambient reflections coming into my eye. What color would it be? And
Green.
green. Blue. And so that's one of the things that I keep playing with. I just want to make sure that reflection on the water is just like singing.
Fun question for you, Louis, and then I'll let you concentrate. If you had to pick, what time of year do you think this painting was from?
You know, I kind of like, just like gut reaction, I feel like it's kind of wintry, like, you know, like just me personally. I feel like if I'm looking at this scene, I can feel myself being cold, you know, looking at it. And so I'm wondering if that's true. It's probably not. It's probably summer. But shows you what I know.
Hey, I mean, I think that's the power of color in landscape, you know? It can really give a lot of information to the viewer about where you are and what time of year it is. Yeah, I feel like I would say yours feels very like winter-esque or wintry, and I feel like Liv's is maybe like kind of autumnal or like early spring breaking out of winter.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I like it.
I know I don't do it this often, but I do love painting seascapes. There's something just tranquil about the scenes that really get me excited.
I feel like that's a really good challenge in and of itself, is seascape painting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever painted a seascape before, to be honest.
It's a whole nother ball of wax, another challenge in the world of painting, but worth it when you can start understanding it, because I don't know, there's just such beauty in the rhythms of the ocean.
Probably as stressful as I can imagine plein air painting a seascape might be, it's also probably equally as meditative. Just listening to the rhythm of the waves.
That sounds nice.
Let's go.
Yeah, we should do it. There's a lake nearby we could go to.
There is.
There's several lakes, actually. But
Nothing's stopping us.
yeah, let's do it. Mr. Wet Duck, I love that name too. We've got some great names today. Mr. Wet Duck says, you're very careful with your brush. Smiley face.
I am right now because it's like at this stage you're like, just don't screw it up. Especially on water, because you're trying to like do tight little wave marks but they have to be sort of in the right perspective of each other. So they can't tilt that much. So if y'all want to see a great seascape painter, William Trost Richards, American painter, kind of the same time period as the Hudson River painters, and he hung out with those cats a decent amount. But he was just a master at water and sky. If you really want to learn the anatomy of water, that's the guy to look at. He was incredible.
The anatomy of water. I love that.
Water's tricky. It's a doozy to paint.
Following up on anatomy, Cove Silas asks, how in-depth do you think it is necessary to go with human anatomy? I assume it depends on what subject matter you're interested in.
The best answer I have to that is that anatomy is an investigative tool. It's to help inform the rest of it's to help you make sure you get things in the right spot that need to be in the right spot. And so you can go as deep as you want to go, but as long as you have a really strong understanding of where things go, and the best way to know if you do or not is try to draw the figure from memory. And see if you can remember where all the muscles go and how they go. Because if you can, then you're golden. You don't need to learn anymore. But my hunch is there's room for improvement there. So I would definitely say it's helped me most certainly come with my figurative and portrait work knowing anatomy. And I feel like it would help most anybody who is wanting to learn to paint. Paint the figure, at least.
Yeah, if you have like a good understanding of anatomy too, it's kind of like a shortcut, because getting the drawing right with no knowledge of anatomy is so much more difficult. But if you know anatomy, especially for those like weirder poses or different perspectives or angles, it's a little bit easier to kind of fill in the blanks with knowledge that you already have. If you're like having trouble placing things or getting the sizes of things right, just makes things a little easier.
Yep. So everyone, while we're rounding closer to the end of this session, just want y'all to know that one way, if you are excited about what we're doing and want to support, we will be doing a studio sale, sort of a holiday studio sale starting right after this challenge. And I think it's the second weekend of November. And many of these paintings will be up for sale on the studio sale, and we're going to be making them for affordable prices to help support East Oaks. Basically this is a month of my sacrificing my commission work to make sure that we have something beautiful and free for everyone to be able to do. And if you want to show gratitude, that's a way to support us if you can afford to. Otherwise, just giving a like helps us. And so make sure to do, at minimum, do that. That would be helpful. But these pieces, including this one I'm working on now, and others, will be available for you to purchase. So support the girls.
And Louie.
And me.
The girls and Louie.
The girls and me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will release more information for y'all on that studio sale as we approach it. But you'll be able to find that from the East Oaks website. Siska says that they love the Bouguereau. And
Awesome.
Julie Messersmith says, another great week. Thank you so much. I'm very inspired. Look forward to seeing you again on Monday.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you then.
Yes.
So, and everyone, I just want y'all to know, I hope y'all have a fabulous weekend. I might keep messing around with this, but we're going to go ahead and start shutting the live stream down. And I'll make sure to post the results of this on Discord. And same with Liv, once she is done with it as well. And if you want to show your work, please join us on Discord. We would love to see what you're working on. It's been fabulous. Every evening as I get done and I'm exhausted from the day, I'll open it up and check and see what everybody's been working on. So feel free to join our community. We have a whole section called Community Critique. So if you want your work to be critiqued by the community, we have like rules where you submit a work, but you give a critique to somebody else's as well. And it's a way for all of us to continue to come together. And I really believe we're trying our hardest to build a family. And I really believe that that's happening. So it really excites me. But I want to see your challenges. Work over the weekend if you have time. Go back to some of the videos and try some of these things. Submit your work, and I'm on Discord every night, so I would love to see what you're working on. In the meantime, y'all have a wonderful weekend, and I want to say thank you for Evie for being behind the switcher, and for Livia for joining me today, as well as switchering yesterday. And to all of you who are joining, thank you, and thank you for liking. And so y'all have a lovely day. Happy painting.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.